Shalom. Call halal Yahweh Shema Shai by Hashem Rakakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners, and to the Aquath that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. Going to reflect on a couple of things that I experienced today. A video that I saw, and a conversation the other day, and also an article that I just read in the New York Post by a longtime resident who was a nightclub owner, and how he was just saying that New York is dead forever. And just looking at the images, of Manhattan with no one in the streets, right there at like 42nd and 7th, right in the middle of Times Square, and how dead it was. That was amazing because it looked like a scene out of I Am Legend. How he was in the city and it was just nobody but him. That's kind of how it looked. Like it was straight out the movies. And that's pretty much the sentiment of the America and the world, because you have to understand, New York is basically like it said in the article, the financial center of the universe, and for that place to be dead like that, well, it's evidence of what's going on. But the video that I really had in mind was a video that I was watching with Glen Beck from, and it's been, the video's been traveling around, being passed around through the brotherhood and put all over YouTube. A lot of brothers are using it, but it was from the ranch, and it was just basically about a 2.5 minute insert of Glen Beck having a conversation with with a guest, and they were talking about how, America's done, and they don't think it's coming back, and I forget their exact verbiage, but he said it's kind of melancholy, and thinking about it, how this time he knows that it's done, there's no coming back from it, and how he's trying to stay positive, but with all the craziness that's going on, and how the things that they're talking about are things that they never would have talked about 5, 6, 10 years ago. Well, you know what? The apostles of the great millstone, and then, and the brothers that were built up from them have been on the internet for over the last 10 plus years, pushing this truth, and the vibration of of us telling the truth, that spirit is moving through the earth, man. All right. And basically what's happening with that melancholy, because the word melancholy means like, sadness, pensive sadness. All right. Which pensive means like deep thought. So they were deeply pondering what's going on and how they can't see any way out of this. They're defeated. And quite frankly, what's honestly going on is that the curses are now falling upon them. So I'm going to get a very familiar scripture to start with, be the first scripture of the day. And that scripture is going to be Deuteronomy 7. '30 and 7, Salakia. So Deuteronomy 30, verse 7. And it reads, "And Yahweh thy power will put all these curses upon thy enemies, and on them that hate thee, which persecute thee." So they're starting to feel the curses, because the elect is waking up to this truth. There was a video yesterday that I saw, of a Judite woman going in on the Jewish and telling them how if you're mad, that's too sad, too bad, because basically you stole the heritage, and they did, But that just goes to show you the sentiment of what's being talked about among the tribes and among the other people. Last night at the sit down, Elder Uriah in the camp put up a website, a search results on a website that he put up over 10 years ago, and how in all the redness of you know, and all the different maps around the world was showing you all the places in the world where that website was being looked at. And it was literally the entire world. Literally the entire world. So the truth is spread to the four corners of the earth, and Esau Edom is not happy about it, man. All right, so going back to the Glen Beck thing at the ranch, he made a statement about how he was talking to a friend of his who told him that they had a bunch of Fortune 500 company CEOs paid some motivational speaker to come in. And you know, those motivational speakers make, you know, pretty good chunk of change to speak. But the motivational speaker came in, and he's made the statement that he said, if you can't accept that everything that you were taught about America is a lie, if you can't accept that, then that is your white privilege. He said, because we can't get past that until you accept that. And, you know, a lot of brothers cut the video, but what Glen Beck went on to say right after that was that he can't accept that. He said, you know, like everything is a lie. And the answer, Glen Beck, is yes. Everything is a lie. All right. Your society was built on rape, robbery, murder, and the oppression of other people and the propagation of their lands and their properties and their labor without pay. All right. Without pay. This is Zechariah 11:5. And it reads, whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. And they that sell them say, blessed be the Lord, for I am rich. And their own shepherds pity them not. Let's get one more. Let's go to Job 20 and 22. It's another good one. And it reads, in the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. Every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. So, right, all the wicked is going to come down upon Esau Edom. And the reason why they're in such straits right now, and this is just the beginning. You ain't seen nothing yet, man. This is just the beginning. But the reason that they're in straits right now is because the Spirit of the Lord is moving through the earth, causing this chaos, bringing the end of their mirth. You know, there's no more joy, no more happiness, no more big money schemes, no nightclubs and comedy clubs and movie theaters and all that. Well, they just brought the movie theaters back, but only at 25% operational. How are you going to survive? You know, and all these lies and the whole COVID thing was just to disguise the fact that America was falling, that the crash was coming in the first place. That's exactly what's going on. You know, I can't stress that point enough. You already went in the middle of a 3-year retail apocalypse before the COVID hit. So how long do you think that it would have been? Even if COVID didn't hit, where we are today, we would have gotten there anyway. It just probably would have taken a little bit longer. All right? As more and more jobs and things were disappearing, that means more people couldn't pay their rent, pay their mortgages, pay their property taxes, pay their commercial real estate mortgages or rent. And just would have saw more and more stores begin to close, and it was going to happen. It just would have been a slower death. You know, this COVID thing sped it up. And that's because the Lord is speeding things up. He's behind this. He's orchestrating this. All right. Another thing that's happening to the so-called white man while they're having so many problems is the fact that their image is being destroyed. The lies that they've propagated, you know. Salaki, I was drinking some water. I'll give you an example. The Disney movie, and this is one that I like to use, a Disney movie about Pocahontas and this fictional, fraudulent love affair that she had with John Smith. What people don't know, that the real story of John Smith and Pocahontas was a story of kidnap and rape. And murder. Because what John Smith did was he murdered her husband, because Pocahontas was married, and she had a son. And I can't remember correctly if he killed the son, if he took them both into slavery. But her son ended up dying. and her husband ended up dying, and she ended up being forced into slavery and a sexual slavery, as he kidnapped her and took her back to Europe, where she died, where she got sick and died. And I think she had another child from all the repeated, rape and sexual servitude. But that part of the story is not sold. Why? Because they wanted to paint an image of themselves for being the handsome hunk that all the women want. And the truth be said, when you learn real history, they had to create laws that made life so difficult for Edomite women when they married other men, because what was happening in the 1600s was the Edomite women were coming over here and they were marrying Negroes and natives. For the most part, they weren't marrying Edomite men. So Edomite men fabricated a lot of laws in the 1600s, or put a lot of laws in place that made it difficult for them when they did so. So they weren't with them by choice. And the evidence of that is when as soon as you go, you just look at the NBA, the NFL, Major League Soccer, football, or any of those sports. When Jake gets money, the Edomite women flock to him. And guess what? The Edomite and the heathen women flock to Jake even when they don't have anything. So how much more when they have everything? I was once told by a Jewish client of mine, who was my client for a very long time. I actually liked her, and but I remember she once told me, because she nailed a lot of Jake. That's what she loves. Matter of fact, when she met me, she told me I reminded her of some Jake in France that she used to bang. That's what made her want to train with me, because I reminded her of this Jake over in France. But she once told me that, hey, you marry a Jewish guy, but you fuck black guys. That was in conversation. She honestly said that, So, it just is what it is, man. And what's that? That's part of his image. The image of Esau, Edom, is being destroyed, man. And he don't like that, I had a conversation with a Issacharite chick the other day when I was getting my new equipment for my phone and all that stuff. And she started talking about Columbus and how it was all a lie and all, and then I gave her a little extra. I told her that, well, his real name was Cristobal Colon and that he was Jewish. He wasn't Italian at all, and she wrote all that stuff down so she could do research. But what's happening? Their image is being destroyed. That shameful spewing. You know what? Let's grab that. Let's go to Habakkuk 2:16. Yep, this is Habakkuk 2:16, and it says, "Thou art filled with shameful glory. Drink thou also, let the foreskin be uncovered, and the cup of Yahweh's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and the shameful spewing shall be on the glory." All right, so the taking down of the Columbus statues, Salakia, I just finished training two Indian girls, two Elamites. One of them is married to one of my clients, and and they're going through a rough patch because for the last couple of weeks, they've been talking about separating and divorcing and all that stuff. He's mad because she's gained weight, and I guess she's been wanting to come and work out, but his workout time with me is like his vent time. That's why he didn't want her there, but he can't stand the fact that she's gained some weight. So he sent her and her sister, who's visiting, to take his session today, and she brought her younger sister in, and her sister was, on point. I gotta admit, her sister was hot, and he warned me of that too. But the point is that every time they get mad, she gets mad at him. She starts calling him a colonizer, and that he don't understand because of his privilege, and he gets so mad. Why? Because that shame is on his glory, and that's just what's happening, man. That's exactly what it is. This is Sirach or Ecclesiasticus 41:7, and it reads, "The children will complain of an ungodly father, because they shall be a reproach for his sake." That's the argument that you always get from Edomites when you start talking about the things that happened in the past. They're set up today. They're set up there because they're so quick to use the defense that I wasn't there and I didn't do that, and I got black friends, or he's like, well, I'm married to an Indian woman, because she's, they're brown skinned, they're both darker than I am, you know, and his wife, she's a little heavy right now, but she's still attractive, you know. His sister-in-law, whoa, claim, but nevertheless, the point being, man, is that they always use that argument that they weren't there, and I got black friends, and I got Indian friends, and I got Chinese friends, and and I'm not a racist, but what they don't understand is that they benefited from that privilege. All right, and you know what? And if you didn't take full advantage of it, and you're an Edomite, that's your issue. That's your fault. Or if you're not taking advantage of it, because you should, because what comes after this is not going to be good. So hey, this now present world, it was given into the hands of the wicked. It was given unto your forefathers, and to you, and to your people. So you know what? Take advantage of it while it's still here. Even though it's rapidly deteriorating, you're losing it. But it is what it is, man. So that shameful spewing is on their glory. All right. Okay, so let's fast forward to now, man. What's happening now with when you're looking at what's going on with the political parties, all right, and between E, the political party E, the regular E, and then the elites, they're at war with each other, and a house divided cannot stand, man. They're at war with each other, the war with each other, the same way they were in the ancient world. You had the two-party system in Greece and Rome, and they were at odds with each other, and then between they were at odds with each other, and then they will also be at odds with the royal families, with the Caesars. So there's always that contention, man, and that same thing is happening now. All right, you got your Republicans, your liberals, and you got your Republicans and your liberal. I mean your Democrats, or as I call them, your Rat-publicans and your Democrats, your liberals. All right, you have all these different parties that are completely and totally against one another. There's no harmony. There's no melody. They're all at war with each other. Nothing can get done, and that's nothing new under the sun, because that's the way they were in the past. And then you have the elites that are against them. So this is let's go to Luke, to the book of Luke. (11 and 17). And it reads, but he knowing their thoughts, that he is Yahushua, but he knowing their thoughts said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and a house divided against a house faileth or falleth. All right. So the house of Edom is divided against the house of Edom, which is, and also is against everybody else. See, they become like Ishmael. All right, because they're fighting with each other over in Europe. The EU is falling apart. The 10 toes are separating. Plus, they're also at war with Ishmael, with Moab, with other Edomites, and of course the non-stop perpetual war against Israel, against the Israelites. Because Amalek is at the head of that, and Amalek is against the rest of the Edomites, man. Some of them, like, your extremists, your Edomite extremists, they're aware of it. KKK type guys, your militia type guys, they're aware of it. But the average everyday Edomite, Joe Blow, like the guy walking by waving at everybody right now, they don't have a clue. They don't have a clue. All right, and that two-party system failed then. And it's gonna fail now. So let's go to Matthew, another scripture where Yahushua speaks on the same subject. This is Matthew's point of view from when it was said, and this is Matthew 12 and 25. And it reads, and Yahushua knew their thoughts, and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. All right, so they can't stand, man. All right? Satan against Satan is just not going to work. All right? And now you're looking at, look, like I said, they can do nothing right now. Everything that they do is wrong. They're getting challenged on and questioned about. Right? The cops can't do anything. You got cops unhappy and hindered at doing their jobs or afraid to do their jobs. You know, defunding of them. You know, and their actions cause riots, man. You know why? Because and guess what? BLM is about, just like Alex Jones said, is about 90% white. So there's a lot of Edomites that are against law enforcement as well. Why? Because that, you know what? Let's just get a scripture. Let's get a Sirach or Ecclesiastes 41:7 again, man. Let's get it. And this is Sirach 41:7, and it reads, "The children will complain of an ungodly father, because they shall be a reproach for his sake." So that's that shaming, that Edomite shaming, as they call it, that's going on, you know, in the colleges. You know how they're not allowed in certain places in the schools and universities when they were there. Could you imagine paying all this tuition, which they're the main tuition payers, and then there's certain meetings and places you can't even go there because they're Edomite free zones. And the students of color don't want to have nothing to do with you. Your history is being challenged. Hey, well, because guess who you know who you think was out there pulling down those Confederate statues and those Cristobal Colon statues all over America and all over the South. You know, when you looked out in that crowd, man, that crowd was more than half that crowd was Edomites, man. And you had both Northern and Southern Kingdom out there, especially for the Christopher Columbus statues, Cristobal Colon statues. But nevertheless, more than 50% of those people out there were Edomites, man. So they're against their own. Why? Because they're complaining of ungodly fathers, and they can see that their kingdom is coming to an end, and they're afraid. But there's nothing you can do. All right. So like I always tell you, do your gay stuff, do your drugs, do your coke, do your opioids. You know, do what it is you do. You know, have your orgies, because that's how y'all get down, man. Because this is it for you, man. Nothing but oppression, slavery, and hardcore bondage is in store for you in the very near future. So with that, I'm going to give all praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai, B'Hashem Wakakwadash. Man, you know what? You ain't going to see no more of our women being nannies to Esau Edom either, man. That's over. Call Halal Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai, B'Hashem Wakakwadash. Wa Abba Shalom.